What I love about the good, the bad, and the ugly is I don't think the majority of this country has a clue about the good. We don't know what category to put what country in. We don't know which. Nobody knows. And when you put it in terms that the United States audience can identify with the good, the bad, and the ugly, yeah, it boils it down to its basics. But this country doesn't know the basics, and we need to.
And not only that, but you know, sometimes you get who we believe to be pro-U.S. leaders and governments elected, they turn out to be completely the opposite, and vice versa. Elected leaders that we feared very much turn out to be, you know, not antithetical to U.S. interests.
Also the fact that this government really didn't count on this happening, that they were basically blindsided by what first started happening in Egypt and then started having a domino effect across the region.
Of course they didn't count on it, but you know, don't you take that job, don't count on tomorrow. Don't count on the next hour.
In general, I mean, you know that the government does have its people in place, and they have people on the ground there who are our embassies, etc., and our operatives who are there to advise about where things are headed.
I don't think anyone really expected a pro-democracy movement of this magnitude in the Middle East at this point. But at the same time, great leaders emerge from great opportunities. This was a great opportunity that was presented to the Obama administration. They could have gotten in front of this, and they could have made this a situation that really had implications for generations to come. I'm not so sure that they've done that. And part of the problem has been this inconsistency in a philosophy or an approach to what's happening in that part of the world. And as you pointed out a moment ago, I think, Uma, one of the issues is that you know, we're treating Libya very differently from the way we're treating Syria, as you point out, and there doesn't seem to be any coherent foreign policy mission.
JD, I think we've got a couple seconds left with you. What are your thoughts as we go forward? What are you expecting to see in the months ahead?
Unfortunately, more chaos, because we don't really have a coherent plan to deal with this. We've got leaders like Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who is an Egyptian 84-year-old cleric. He gave a speech to hundreds of thousands in Tahrir Square where he praised Adolf Hitler. And these are the type of leaders that are trying to get the vote out for people like the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists. So I think it's going to continue to deteriorate, and that's very unfortunate. We're just going to have to do our best to stop whatever damage we can.
Well, JD, great to have you on board today. Thank you so much for joining us with your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Wilma. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. You know, the point that you're raising here about the fact that we have operations going on in Libya, and yet we don't have anything in place really for what's taking Syria, Egypt, Yemen. You know, it's just, again, confusing to the American public as to what kind of foreign policy we're running here.
Well, it's not, because it's not consistent. It varies from one spot to the next, and so does the way that the White House looks at it, so does the way the White House speaks about it. I mean, you can't say one thing in the morning and do something different in the afternoon, because we're actually all watching, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us, we're very interested. The world is chaotic right now, and the White House needs to take a leadership position, period. Say what you want to do, be consistent about it, and do it everywhere.
I think it's clear that the American public is tired of war, tired of military intervention, and so you can understand why the administration is being very selective and very reluctant to engage in places where it may be able to get away without intervening. But at the same time, I think the country needs a clear message from the White House about what his philosophy is toward foreign policy. And I think that that's lacking right now, and that is manifesting itself in polls across the country. And it's not good news for the president, who had been getting high marks, as I pointed out earlier, on foreign policy. Like, you've seen an erosion in the confidence of the public and the president's ability to manage foreign affairs in this country, and that could be devastating.
Yeah, well, don't forget, I mean, which I know we all like to, it's sort of an asterisk to the story, but we're in financial trouble, and war costs a lot of money.
Sure does.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. And then you get a candidate like Huntsman, who comes in, who has solid diplomacy background and credentials on the foreign policy front. That could spell big trouble for a candidacy that's weak on foreign policy.
Indeed, and I think what's interesting too is, you know, there are those who say that Obama caved to pressure on the Libya issue because so many people were saying you didn't react to Egypt, you didn't react to Yemen, you didn't react fast enough, and the rebels were desperately calling out for help on a daily basis. So then the United States goes in. But what is the end game? Again, question mark, huge question mark.
Yeah, but here's the problem with the American public and the election that is coming up is that if we get Gaddafi in those 60 days before that presidential election, all will be forgotten. We got Gaddafi, we got bin Laden, you know,
Sure.
boy, we must be doing a great
That isn't even
job.
a stated goal.
I know,
It's not an explicitly
it's
stated
not a
goal
stated
of
goal
this
at all.
intervention.
Well,
if that's the goal, tell Americans it's the
Correct.
goal, and then
I
go
agree.
do it. And
I
if
agree.
you do it, then it's a victory. If
Right.
you don't do it, it's an
Well,
accident.
the president
happened
went
by
on
default.
record saying we're not there to assassinate anybody.
Right,
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
he
And
got
That's
it
the
out
problem.
there.
Then what are we there to do? People need a clear understanding of what we're there to do. If they believe that the president has the conviction of what he's doing, they will support it. They will understand it. And I'm not so sure that we have that kind of
Oh,
clear
the whole
understanding.
notion. That's what bothers, I think, most people in my party. It's ridiculous. Of course we want to get Gaddafi.
Of course,
Come
so just
on.
say it.
And
Yeah.
there is hostilities there. It is an act of war. This whole big, giant debate, please. It's not really a debate.
Right.